Los Angeles, home to the stars of Tinseltown, the home also to murder. The horrific slaying of Betty Short, aka the Black Dahlia, has captured the imagination of the Southland and baffled the best minds in law enforcement.
Imagine walking through a quiet Los Angeles neighborhood and stumbling upon a gruesome sight that would haunt you forever. A body drained of blood, bisected and posed like a sick art piece. This was the horrifying reality of the Black Dahlia murder, a crime that has baffled investigators for decades.
Do you remember the Black Dahlia case?
Yes, I do. Yes, I remember it.
Who was behind such a twisted and calculated act? Was it a brilliant surgeon with a dark side, or someone even closer to Elizabeth Short's life? In this video, we'll uncover the shocking details of the case, explore the chilling suspects, and reveal the latest leads that might finally solve this 70-year-old mystery.
He was a brilliant man, a loving parent in many ways, but also, I'm sorry to say, a killer.
Before she became the infamous Black Dahlia, she was Elizabeth Short, a young woman with big dreams. Born on July 29, 1924 in Massachusetts, Elizabeth was the third of 5 daughters to Cleo and Phoebe May Short. Elizabeth had a thing for Hollywood ever since she was a little girl. Her reenactments of movie scenes were so dramatic and captivating that people compared her to Deanna Durbin, the era's beloved teen actress. So it's only natural that she followed her passions. She moved to Los Angeles in July 1946. How was this well-connected Hollywood physician the man behind one of the most gruesome unsolved homicides in American history? Many describe her as an aspiring or would-be actress. Unfortunately, before young Elizabeth could realize her dreams, she was brutally taken out. On the morning of January 15, 1947, a local woman out for a walk in Los Angeles stumbled upon a sight so chilling it would haunt her forever.
We were driving down Venice Boulevard before the freeways. This was January 15th, 1947. And this police call came out, 390W415 down. I said, oh, gee whiz. I said, Felix, I said, there's a naked woman in a lot. I said, let's go check this one out.
There in a vacant lot lay the dissected body of Elizabeth Short. Her pale, lifeless body was hauntingly clean, drained of blood, and arranged with unsettling precision. But the details were even more horrifying. Her killer had carved a ghastly smile into her face, slashing her mouth from ear to ear. Think of the Joker, and it made one thing obvious to the investigators who would later work on her case. This wasn't just a homicide. It was a gruesome performance meant to shock and disturb.
He was cut in half. It was done very, very, almost professionally, like a meat cutter or a guy who had knowledge of dressing deer down in the field or something like that.
In fact, her body had been deliberately posed. Her upper half was positioned with arms raised above her head. The scene reminded some of artist Man Ray's 1934 photograph Minotaur. As the relevant authorities were called, questions started floating in the air. Who could have orchestrated such a brutal yet meticulously staged crime? And what message were they trying to send?
Young, beautiful victim. All this during a time when serial killers weren't running rampant. It captured the public's imagination.
According to many experts, only a surgeon could have taken her out. So the LAPD carried out background checks on the entire student body of a nearby USC medical school. Unfortunately, they were no closer to finding the culprit. A few half-baked theories were all that the police had.
This killer was almost certainly male. It's likely that he knew Elizabeth Short. He had her birth certificate, and a lot of times these crimes are committed by somebody who knows the victim.
And so they interrogated Robert Red Manley next, a married man who had an affair with Short and who also happened to be the last known person to see her alive. However, his alibi was held, leaving the police back at square one. But something interesting happened on January 24th. The culprit reached out. He sent out an envelope addressed to the Los Angeles Examiner and other Los Angeles papers, which included Dahlia's belongings, her birth certificate, an address book, her business cards, and some photographs, all cleaned with gasoline the same way her body was.
We got some letters from the prime suspect, and the examiner got the letters too, by God, not the police.
This letter proved that the culprit was confident enough to boast about his sick crime. However, it also proved that the culprit was smart enough to evade authorities. The letter didn't lead the police anywhere. In fact, it left with 60 men who all confessed to taking out Elizabeth Short. And so, with dead leads and no new suspects, the trail ran dry. That was until now. Though the list of suspects has grown long in recent years, one name still attracts attention: Dr. George Hodel. And he isn't just any suspect. Back in the good old days, Hodel was a charismatic figure with powerful friends, rubbing shoulders with the likes of director John Huston and artist Man Ray. But how was this well-connected Hollywood physician, the man behind one of the most gruesome unsolved homicides in American history? Well, his own son, Steve Hodel, a former LAPD detective, thought so. And he made a compelling case in his book, Black Dahlia Avenger, The True Story.
On the front page of one of the newspapers was a note that the killer had sent in, and it said, "Turning myself in on January 29th, had my fun at the police, signed the Black Dahlia Avenger." And I looked at that front page photograph, and it's my father's handwriting. A couple of days after his passing, and she says to me, "Well, you know, Steve, our father was a suspect in the Black Dahlia murder." I said, "What the hell are you talking about, Tamar? Where is this coming from?"
It all started when, back in 1949, Hodel became a suspect in the Black Dahlia case while standing trial for the unspeakable crime of traumatizing his own daughter. He wasn't found guilty, but the LAPD wasn't done with him yet. They placed a wiretap in Hodel's home and managed to capture a bone-chilling confession. "Supposing I did kill the Black Dahlia." They can't prove it now. Now, why would Hodel utter such damning words? Was it arrogance or a slip of guilt? The authorities never found out because Dr. George Hodel fled the US soon after, living abroad for decades, leaving the question unanswered forever. However, his son, Steve, spent his life following the evidence to build his case against his own father. It's worth pointing out that Steve lost credibility when he theorized that his father was also the Zodiac killer. Fortunately, the police had other leads as well. Back in 2018, a woman named Sandy Nichols uncovered a letter from 1949 that her grandfather, a former police informant, wrote that said the Black Dahlia was taken out by a man named G.H., solidifying Hodel as the suspect even more. However, there's more to the story than him. David Lamkin, a retired detective, worked on the case back when he was the head of the Los Angeles Police Department's cold case unit in 2001. Well, recently, he sat down with the Los Angeles Times to name the suspect on top of his list, and it turned out to be Dr. Walter Alonzo Bailey. As a surgeon, Walter had the right set of skills to brutalize Elizabeth. As for motive, well, Walter's estranged wife lived just 1 block from the crime scene. David believes that Walter may have taken her out in a fit of rage after losing his son. The boy passed away after being hit by a truck when he was just 11, and Short was coincidentally found 2 days after the anniversary of his passing. What's interesting is that David wasn't the only one to point a finger at Walter. Larry Harnish, a retired copy editor, had the same theory. He explained it all in his blog. He was desensitized to blood, was comfortable with a knife, and although he had a medical degree, he did work with his hands rather than his brains. He also had a strong but troubled link to the immediate vicinity of the crime scene. Not to mention, Walter had an undiagnosed brain disease back then, which would have severely altered his personality. However, years later, the authorities are yet to make something of these leads. And so, as time passes, the hopes of finding the real culprit seem next to none. However, some still hold out hope, given the recent advancement in forensic science and DNA processing. That's it for this one. Give us a like and let us know, will the Black Dahlia murderer ever be caught? Comment down your thoughts below, and as always, stay safe out there.